Today I'm thrilled to welcome you to our inaugural podcast, Manaw at the Table. And I'm delighted to welcome Vivienne Sayers O'Callaghan, a dynamic Irish Gen Z entrepreneur, music and cultural advocate, and a leading New York City-based Irish language influencer. With over 220,000 followers and more than 18 million views across TikTok and Instagram, Vivienne has captured global attention by blending her vibrant New York life with bite-sized servings of Irish arts, language, and culture. Now she heads VYV Media, a digital agency focused on brand growth, content strategy, and social media. She's also a producer and consultant, helping businesses and individuals bring their stories to life through creative video content. Vivienne, Kate Mila Falcha.
You're Mila Mahagat, Martina. Thank you for a beautiful, fantastic introduction.
Well deserved. And we couldn't think of a better person to kick off the podcast Manaw at the Table. So thank you again for joining us. So we'll get stuck in. So I mean, I do follow you on Instagram, and I'm a newcomer to TikTok. But take us through going from rural Ireland to the New York Post. Wow.
I know when I got the New York Post coverage, I said, well, now I can stop everything. I've made it. Happy days. So, gosh, well, I'm originally from County Cork, but I'm also a Kerry woman, which makes GA matches a small bit difficult at home. So I grew up on a lovely farm in North Cork, and I went off to boarding school then on the Dingle Peninsula for 5 years, which is where my mother's side of the family is from, and where the Sayers name would come from there in my name. And it was while at boarding school, my love for the Irish language really, of course, bloomed, because I was in an complete Irish immersion a high school, as we'd say over here, or a secondary school. So I was studying mathematics and literature and English and music and business and all biology, even physics, all through the Irish language. And of course, when you're that involved, you become fluent quite quickly, or so you're forced to. So I finished up there, and it was at my time in Coláiste Ida. It was called that. I started voice training with a fantastic teacher. So what did I do? I got very high points on my leaving cert, and the parents and the family then said, great, she'll go off and she'll be a doctor, she'll be a lawyer, typical Irish mentality, she'll be a teacher. And I said, no, lads, I'm going off to do music. And it was only very recently my parents said to me, we are delighted that you did music, because we said to each other, at least she'll never work a day in her life because she'll be doing something that she loves. And that's what I did for the next 4 years. I did operatic voice training. I originally started as a violinist, so a joke in the classical music world is that I'd have the two worst personalities, a string player and a soprano, but we're making it work. And I finished there at the Cork School of Music, and it was in my senior year or my 4th year at home that I said, gosh, I'd love to be in the US. And at the time there, I also had a voice training teacher who had studied at Juilliard, and it was upon first or second meeting, he looked at me and he said, you need to be in America. And I never understood what that meant really at all till I got here. And the second I stepped foot in New York, I was like, oh yeah, this is the place for me. So I finished my senior year in Boston, and in a beautiful college, Seaside College, Endicott College was the name of it. And it was straight after that I got accepted into a fantastic program by the name of the Mountbatten program, which would be a familiar name on both sides of the pond. But it's a fantastic program that gives you free accommodation, they give you a visa, they give you a role placement in New York City. So I said, great, I'll do that for the next 18 months. And it was during my time then I started my social media and exploring life on the socials, essentially. And it was July 2023, somewhere around there, I started. And since then, I have over 100 million views and 250,000 followers. So I'm very fortunate that the Irish and the Irish American and the American community on this side of the ocean have supported me so much through my Irish language, culture, music focused short form videos and content. So apologies, that was a very long spiel. You got my entire life story there.
No, It's fantastic. And then just to go back a little bit, Vivienne, for you're what, 24? Is that okay? 24?
I am, yes. Very, I
24.
feel ancient.
Yeah, no, not at all. But people your age in Ireland, they're figuring out, should I go to, would I think about going to Australia? Would I think of, America, Canada? So, what was the real draw? I know you talked about Juilliard, but what was the real draw, like the real draw for you to come to America?
The real draw, well, it started, you know yourself when you're watching all the movies and the TV shows at home, and they paint this glamorous, romanticized, vision of living in New York City. And of course, once you see that, how do you get rid of that besides coming here? Now, being like a musical theatre and a singer and a jazz singer and an opera singer, I said, well, there's nowhere else in the world for me to be, either Vienna or the Paris Opera or New York City. So, but what drew myself to it on a really personal level, though, was the ambitious people that I saw here. At home, I was always going out of my way to be deliberately busy all the time. Like during my Bachelor of Music, that's kind of when my social media career started. I started my own houseplant interior design consultancy. So I started importing houseplants from Scandinavia, from Holland, from the continent, and selling them online, because I realized that there was really nowhere during COVID doing mail order plants, which of course is the most random product to be selling. But as I like to joke and say, nobody had anything better to be doing this during COVID besides buying plants and animals. So I always had a big draw for being busy, reaching for the stars, for the next biggest thing, and what's bigger than New York City, So I saw other people here exactly like me, and once I came, I said, this is the place for me.
So you always had that entrepreneurial spirit from a very young age.
That's it. I was really fortunate. My two parents are both entrepreneurs. My dad runs a company where we adapt cars for people with disabilities. So if you were to lose, movement of your legs or one side of your body, we'd adapt the vehicle so you could drive from your wheelchair. So that's always been in my life. And my mother then is a project manager and a veterinary I'll get all the wrong words here now, but we'll say a vet. And and we have a farm. So I've always been around the hardest working people. And I was very lucky to get some of those genes.
No, for sure. And then I love that they didn't box you in. They allowed you to be you.
That's it, exactly. I'm so fortunate.
So maybe then, Vivienne, we'll kind of fast forward to present day and to the Irish language, the work you're doing for our culture, our heritage, and how all that transpired.
Yeah, so it was during my time in Boston, of course, as you guys would know. It is so highly concentrated with Irish community and Irish American community. And while engaging with other students and kids my own age, I think it was 20 or 21, I moved over. I was 20 because I remember I wasn't allowed to have a pint when I first came, and I was distraught. But I became the Irish girl, which I was delighted to be. I said, great, I've one USP, one unique asset and perspective for myself over here. So I'll dig into the Irish thing and see what happens. But people would notice the accent immediately, and it became really, really clear to me that the conversation around the Irish and the Irish community was not exactly the narrative that I'd heard before, or a narrative that I knew, or in Ireland that I knew exactly. So typical stereotypes, the drinking, the fighting. Oh God, and if I hear the word potato famine one more time. So I kind of, it kind of crushed me a small bit, in that people are very familiar with the famine, okay, and then we get to 1916 and 1922, and they know about England and Ireland and all that stuff, and they know about the Troubles, but they know nothing else about us. So I was like, I need to change this narrative. I need to educate people. And I found myself, when they say, oh, tell us about the famine or something like that, I'd actually come out with, well, instead I'm actually going to tell you about the Irish language. Do you know that we have our own language? And they would be speechless, or they'd say, "Oh, Gaelic," and then I'd get to have my whole fun conversation with them and tell them more about who we are. So I said, right, there's this many people that don't know who Ireland is beyond the 2000s. Then here I am. There's the white space for me online. Here's some a way to kind of educate and to make accessible videos via TikTok and Instagram, and that's where I started.
Okay, okay. And were you finding, Vivienne, people that, wanted to just talk about the famine, the 1916, the Guinness, was that people that hadn't traveled to Ireland?
And I'd love to say that it was only people that hadn't traveled to Ireland, but I still today, even in New York, speak with people who have been to Ireland and still have this romanticized or this vision of us that we might not be, or we might be in the movies. So I guess I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite. I saw New York in the movies and I said, that's exactly what New York must be like. I have to be there. But if anyone does it the other way, then I'm here to educate.
Well, I suppose that's, see, it's your role now, how important it is that we have to continue to educate and, get away from the stereotypes, and that the immigrant of today is so different from the immigrant that came in 1960, 1970.
It is getting away from the stereotypes, but it's also really important to educate people on the people that are coming out of Ireland, the innovations that are coming out of Ireland. We're one of the most progressive countries in Europe. We have 9 out of the 10 biggest tech companies in the world in Ireland, and we have this amazingly skilled workforce. Thank you. There's the word. I was thinking students. What's the other word? Workforce. And it only came out very recently as well in a study that Ireland is the world's most educated country. Now, educated here meaning with the most amount of kind of third level studies in the country. So it's almost 52 or 53% of the country does have third level education. And it's these things I want to be telling people about. I'm sick of talking about potatoes. Now, it is annoying because I love potatoes so much and people will still mock you for that, but I want more conversation around Ireland rather than the sheep and the shamrocks.
Right, and I think our young people are our biggest export.
Precisely at the moment, exactly, and that's a great way of putting it. Export. We are doing our best abroad in the US, in Australia, to push these great narratives about our country and push how unbelievably great our food is and how contemporary our art is at the moment, to the music that we're producing as well. Like Kingfisher, Amble, Hosier. Of course, everyone knows the Irish musicians, so we should talk about them more.
Right, right. And what I love what you're doing, Vivienne, you have made, the Irish language, I think, cool and accessible. And now I'm younger than you, but we know how Irish was taught in secondary school and the relationship, some of us have with the language. So talk to me a little bit about your content, the thought process beside your reels.
Mm-hmm. That's it, exactly. The Irish language, as well as being Irish up in Boston, the fact that I was also fluent as Gaeilge in Irish was a massive, again, unique kind of selling point. I said, right, I'll use this. I can tell everybody about this. And it became something that I became really, really proud of having Irish then, far more proud than I ever was back at home, because it's somewhat normal, or there's a massive stigma around the language at home, really, because unfortunately of the way it's taught. And no, at home in Ireland, it used to be cool, even when I was, in secondary school. And a big secret out there is I'm pretty sure I was the kid in the class with the most attentions for speaking English, actually. So, again, a hypocrite. But no, yes, so I'm fluent in the language, and I said, okay, I've just automatically become more Irish having left Ireland, and this is something I'm really proud of, and this is something that I can tell other people about as well. Not only that Irish people refer to the Irish language as Gaeilge, not so much Gaelic, or I can tell you about all these English words that actually came from the Irish language, like words that are escaping me right now, but like the word boycott. And we have this Hiberno English as well. So instead of saying, I eat that, you'd say, I do be eating that. And funny structures like that. And I thought that these were really fun, quirky things to help the Irish and the Irish diaspora fall in love with their language all over again. Because it's true, I didn't have much graw for the language when I was in secondary school, when I was in primary school even, because it was grammar and it was books and it was the whiteboard and exams, and it was nothing else. It wasn't made relevant to me. It wasn't made relevant to you in modern day society. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is bring Gaeilge into modern life, make it relevant to you, make it accessible, most importantly. So I create videos now on using it every day. Like, how can you use the Irish language in a text message every day? You can say slán, as in, bye at the end. How do you bring it into your emails? Instead of being, some people might be like, oh, I don't want to be obnoxious and have my email beginning and ending in Irish and stuff like that. But a great way to do it is just by having an Irish language signature at the end. I always have le gach da gui, which means with every good wish or with best wishes, Vivienne. And people can take that or leave that as they will. But again, it's creating conversation around it. Another way I like to show people to use use Irish in their daily lives is by using it in their social media captions or in their bios as well. Just creating vision around it.
Yeah, and I definitely, I try to do that too, Vivienne. I remember I heard you speak at the consulate recently, and it can be just as you said, little phrases like "le gach the agui" or "slán go fóil." So we can all do our part. Just something you mentioned that you really feel a real connection to the Irish heritage or language since you moved to New York. So, what would you say to the young diaspora that are feeling a little bit disconnected? I think I hear lots of the organizations in Boston, and I'm sure it's in New York, that we're trying to engage the younger people, trying to engage the second and third generations.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
So it's fantastic, the people and the ambition that I'm seeing coming out of or being exported out of Ireland at the moment into New York is amazing. I have messages from people my own age in my DMs or my direct messages every day asking, how do I get engaged with New York? How do I get a job? How do I make the best out of my opportunity here? And it is always boiling back down to engage first with your own community. Find your community. And what's the easiest community to find immediately but your own country's community, the Irish network here or in Boston or in Australia. If you're feeling lonely, if you're finding it difficult to engage with this new culture, oh my goodness, I can't tell you the amount of time that it actually took me to overcome all the cultural differences and idiosyncrasies that I had to learn transitioning from Ireland to the US. I'm so lucky I had coaches and teachers and lecturers up in Boston to say, okay, this is how we work, this is how you work, let's try, find a middle ground. Whereas these kids are coming over to America and the States now and being launched straight in. So where you can find solace in that is at home. Find your own little piece of home abroad. And that's what I was able to do. It was like, what's the closest thing to me is Ireland, okay, and the Irish people. And organizations now are trying to engage these younger generations who are coming over, and because they're seeing the value in us, in the Gen Zs and the Gen Xs and the millennials, all of those. And we're looking to grow the community always and more, create more accessibility, make it more diverse, make more events. And some places, and this boils back down to social media again, actually, some places I see it lacking, where organizations are trying to engage with these communities, and not a lot of them have online presences. So people my age until the age of 30, until the age of 40, we all find our information in different places, but the one thing we all have in common is we find it on our phone. So, and it's again all creating accessibility around education, what's happening, what's going on. tell us about your organization. We want to see it in front of us. It's like, what's the phrase? Bringing a horse, you can bring the horse to water or something like that. So that's actually what I'm doing at the moment in my work. Is there are fantastic companies and orgs that are looking for this younger engagement, and they say, Vivienne, you've been able to do this. Can you explain how exactly? And it's as simple as having a consistent social media presence. And that's what I do with my agency now. As I was able to build 250,000 followers, I now help other people do the same.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit now. You mentioned your agency. Talk to me a little bit about your agency and your current work.
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate, having been in the States now for, I don't even want to say 3 years, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 years. Oh my goodness. Now, with time on and off, I spent months at home, of course, down to visa things and all those lovely immigration bits. So when I finished the Mountbatten program, I used that year to network, for lack of a better term, the hell out of this city, meet as many people as possible. And I need to say that as well. Don't only engage with the Irish community. We're an amazing community, but there are even bigger things out there as well. Go to American networking events. My former housemate was British. I used to go to English networking events or conferences and stuff. My next roommate was from Armenia, so I went to Armenian networking, and that's where a lot of my opportunities have come from. Is being the Irish girl in the room. So I would highly recommend that to anybody new coming over. Is find your community first, and then start to branch outside of it. So back to the work that I'm doing. The current work that I'm doing, I am a marketing executive for a live entertainment and music focused marketing agency. So I was so fortunate then to marry my two biggest passions in life, marketing, digital media, social media, and music. So I've been doing that for since the beginning of 2025. But of course, being the entrepreneur that I am, I can't sit still. I'm constantly buzzing. I think one might call it undiagnosed ADHD of some kind, but I just can't stop. So I said, right, I have this fantastic base now, and I have this fantastic knowledge. How do I use this, and how do I, at the end of the day, what we all have to do, monetize off of this? So I started my own social media agency, and essentially what that is if you're a person, if you have a personal brand, if you're an agency, if you're a company, if you're an organization, and you haven't an iota where to start with the socials, I'm the first lady you can call there. I will build it up from foundation level. I do social media management, and my team does social media management. So if you need consistent posts up there 3 or 4 times a week, my agency is the agency you call. Or simply you just need a meeting, you need to speak with a social media consultant to answer your questions. Those are things that I do. And then I also do social media production. So I'm not necessarily on the social media page itself, but what I do is I take short form videos for people in order for them to then post on their page. So I'll go to events, I'll go to bars and restaurants, and the rest of my team will edit them and then send it off to the client, and happy days. They now have short form videos for the next month that they can keep building their audience and targeting their audience online then. So all around, just a general social media agency that'll tell you everything about Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
And so I think people don't realize social media takes so much time. So it's great to have someone that knows what they're doing.
And that's the thing I'd love to tell you, because I know what I'm doing in inverted commas. I'd love to tell you that, yes, I've quick and efficient ways of doing everything, but my goodness, I produce videos that are not even 60 seconds long, and you're looking at about 3 to 4 hours of editing, script making, recording, and then getting it off, speaking about the brief, doing a review afterwards. social media is probably the most time consuming things ever, and isn't it a shame, because we spent all our times in the phones then. But that's why then you can give a buzz to people like me, because I've sorted out a couple of ways to make the process a little more efficient.
Good, good. Now, you spend a lot of time on social media, and we hear lots of talk about screen time. Social media can be such a toxic place. How do you balance that? How do you unplug?
Unplug. That's a great one. I'm very fortunate to have an amazing, amazing partner who, the second I see him, I'm like, grand, switched off. So very fortunate that way. But honestly, my real creative outlet and my real outlet is going to the opera, going to Carnegie Hall. There's nothing, I know that I'm meant for music in life at the end of the day, and whether I get back into conducting, whether I get back into this singing, that's something that I hope to do. But the reason that I know that is because I get goosebumps every single time I'm in a hall with live music, and whether that's classical music or jazz, like I mentioned earlier, or one of my favorite genres, heavy metal, which you wouldn't think.
You would never have thought.
Me and my dad traveled to Germany.
You heard it here. I have to stop. Everyone, you heard it here. I hope the New York Post picks this up.
No, honestly, I know it's my favorite. Like, that's genuinely my outlet, is like driving the pickup truck from New York City out to Long Island, blasting. There's a great heavy metal German rock band called Rammstein, and they are my go-to for stress relief, or the gym. So and yeah, all the time back to music when I need to unplug, really, because it makes you forget about all the other things. It brings me to another world, and I'm so fortunate at the moment to actually. I used to study Carnegie Hall. I used to study the Met Opera and the Met Orchestra and the New York Philharmonic when I was back in university. And I got a call from Carnegie Hall a couple of weeks ago, and they said, we have a Martin Hayes, the greatest fiddle player of this generation, is coming to Carnegie Hall next March, and we want you involved. So big announcement coming there soon. So it's like, that's already given me goosebumps, like the thought that I get to be involved in music, but also do this social media stuff on the side and work with these organizations that I have dreamed of only working with. And it all just comes together in New York, because this place, the opportunity is endless.
Yeah, and it really is, and it's really the city that never sleeps, right?
Yes, and the people that never sleep.
And people that never sleep and are always thinking. I can't help but notice your back. It's a little sparse, your backdrop today. So did you just tell me? Did you just move?
I did indeed, yes. Well, you're lucky the computer isn't turned the other way, because you'd see my bed and my boxes and my couch. And you know, it's so funny. I was actually going to take this meeting sitting on an Amazon box, because I've no chair. I'm lucky I'm a table. So, but I'm so lucky. Someone next door actually had a little stool that I'm currently on. So oh my gosh. I was a bit weird actually about the moving. I am very picky about my environment. I am very high energy always, and I need a high energy environment. Again, when I came to New York, I was like, that looks like the place that will give me the buzz that I need. So instead of signing a lease immediately, I did a bunch of short-term sublets and short-term leases all around the city in completely different areas to see what felt like home. And now I've finally settled in the area that feels good to me. It's central. It couldn't be any more central, and just a hop, skip, and a jump from Central Park as well. Another place that I love to unplug.
I'm sure it must be, I don't know, so cool, so rewarding having your own apartment in Manhattan.
It is. It feels like it, because I always just dreamed of that since, I was 16, which is like 8 years ago now, which is insane to think. But I would just think of living in a beautiful apartment in New York. And I know it's only going to grow and get better and bigger from here. I'm always about manifesting, putting the positive image into your life to see what energy that will then bring you in the future. And total big believer in good karma as well. You put good out there and you do good for other people, it will come come back to you in leaps and bounds. And this, I feel like, is just my first step in this new chapter. So I'm very excited. And I'm mostly excited because the building has a gym, and I'm so sick of not being skinny. So I'm going to work on that the next couple of months. I'm the biggest I've ever been. And I'm like, girl, you got to fix this.
I'm very excited for you. What does your mom, your friends, I mean, what are they thinking in Ireland? What are they saying?
They all think I'm crazy, but they always did, and that's why I have the best friends that I do. I have 4 close best friends that are my ride or dies, and it's great because it's always the crazy people that are like gravitated towards each other, but we all have these amazing leveled kind of personalities where I'll be psycho in one sense and they'll be psycho in another sense, and then we'll balance each other off. So they think I'm crazy. They don't understand why I want to be in New York whatsoever, but they have always trusted me. They always believe me. And my best friend in the whole world, her name is Jess, and I met her in boarding school in Coláiste. We shared a room for 5 years together, so we know each other way too well. We are each other. We just are the same on so many levels, but also incredibly different. She's actually from London herself. And she came over to visit me in New York. She had no interest in the States, no interest in New York whatsoever, but she said, Viv is over there, so I have to make this happen. She came over to visit me then, and it was only last October she did, and it was a perfect timing because I was speaking at the Irish American Partnerships Young Speaker Series at the Harvard Club the University Club on Fifth Avenue, and which I was so honored to be part of. It was my first panel ever, and it was a huge deal for me. And I brought her along, of course, and she wouldn't be interested in those things too much, but she actually started crying at the end of it. She was like, Viv, I'm so proud of you. And to hear that from your best friend, who's always going to bust you, who's never going to really tell you how they really think, because, we're both tough cookies. She sat there and she was like, I knew that you'd get to this someday, but I'm so excited to see where you go now. And she just like teared up. And I said, well, I feel like I've really made it now, because that was a really important moment for me. And then on the other hand, my parents again think I'm a psycho, but it's just because I love to work. I love to go the whole time, and they don't have a massive interest either in New York. So I don't know where I got these strange genes from, but they're delighted also. My mom's just kind of like, so Viv, when you gonna like start sending home money? Isn't that what all the immigrants used to do? My great-grandmother, exactly. She came over as a domestic servant, my great-grandmother, in the 1920s. She was only 21 years of age, and she was the domestic servant for the president of the New York Historical Society, and I've loved looking into her background. It's been fascinating. And of course, being an immigrant back then, you couldn't celebrate your Irish culture or your heritage. You had to keep it under wraps. And you were here and here only to make money and to send it home, and that's what happens. So now my mom's joking. She's like, when am I getting a paycheck? When are you buying me a house? I said, when I can buy myself a house or even an apartment. We're tiny steps.
Oh, that's too fun. Okay. But don't you think, I mean, your great-grandmother paved the way, I mean, for you, and you're, I guess, standing on her shoulders now.
That's it, exactly. And that's how I feel. Really, I feel so honored to have that connection, and it's amazing, the alignment as well. I only discovered it very recently. I found her US passport, and I said, hold a second, I have a US citizen great-grandmother. Now, that didn't serve me in any immigration rights either, unfortunately, but the more and more I looked into it, her name was Margaret Moriarty, and she was from a farm at home on the Dingle Peninsula as well, and she was 5'3", me. She had brown hair, me. She had blue eyes, me. They also said on it that she was ruddy looking on her naturalization cert. And I said, good God, okay. So that basically means she was like white and red. So typical Irish colouring, pink. And she then lived just close to Columbus Circle, actually. And at the time I found the documents, I was living there also. And I felt like everything just fit into place. And many people feel like there are guardian angels out there for you, and the people that have passed in my life and the people that have gone before me, I feel them always here with the luck that I have.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. But Vivienne, I don't know, what's next?
Good question. I was just looking to get into the apartment and buy a chair, honestly. I wasn't thinking beyond that. I am. What is next? I think, oh gosh, you know, it's the social media VYV that I just founded it's in its early stages, and I really hope to like build a team, and that's what I've loved doing in the past. When I hired employees for my plant shop at home, when we opened the retail store, I ended up hiring my customers actually to run the shop. So I had a fantastic manager by the name of Laura, and I had other, sales assistants, and I always hired my customers because they were the people that were most passionate about my product and about my business, and it was the smartest thing that I ever did. So now I have to start from scratch here again and find other people who are interested in, they don't have to be Irish at all, but just interested in social media production and social media and how it works, and interested in making a bit of bob at the end of the day. So that is what's next. I think I had a really exciting beginning of a new chapter just yesterday and the day before moving into this new place, and hopefully there are much bigger things to come, including the gym and including a new Vivienne. And I also just signed on to a fantastic Irish nutritionist in the city, New York City Nutrition. So yeah, big things coming. I just don't know what.
They're all important to take care of yourself, and then your better mindset, and it helps your thought process for work.
That's it, exactly. It's keeping your mind healthy,
Right.
and it's something I never, ever, ever did. I still work 7 days a week. I still work from 6 a.m. to midnight, and my partner is just like, would you ever close the damn computer? And he laughed at me because next to him on the couch at night watching Yellowstone, I'm there, and he's like, would you put away the computer, please? But I can't stop, and I won't stop until I feel there or feel like I've made it, and I'm excited for that. But I'm now eating more, because if my mind is moving that much, you have to fuel it, and I really want to educate myself around that too, so I'm doing the right things for myself. And speaking of family as well, there are all sorts of diseases coming down the line to me, so I let you know, I said I've brain hemorrhages, and I've all types of cancer, and I've all types of heart cardiovascular issues, so if you could fix those with a couple of avocados, we'll be doing well, thank you.
Well, I think you're taking the first step. You have the nutritionist, you have the nice environment to live in, so you're on the right track.
Exactly.
Before we finish up, Vivienne, if there was one or two, just to go back to the Irish language, if there was one or two phrases that people should have in their, I guess I won't say a Rolodex, but
Their toolbox.
yes, in their toolbox. What?
Mm-hmm. One that comes to mind immediately just after the immediate conversation we've just had is one of my favorite phrases, which is togabuge, which means take it easy. And it's actually 4 separate words. You wouldn't think it, but it's togabuge. And you can say it super quick. It sounds super fun, togabuge, and it just means take it easy and relax. And that's something that comes into my head, almost daily now. And one that whenever I speak at conferences or on panels, I'll always get audience participation, because I want to make sure people are not only thinking about the Irish language, but they came out physicalizing it as well, or speaking it. So like you said, a very, very simple one that I have now replaced by with in my life is just slán. SLAN, slán. You can say it very quick. And if any Americans or anyone out here is like, oh gosh, I can't be saying any Irish language in my conversation, because people are going to say, what on earth is going on here? The reason you can say slán is because if you've ever watched an old American movie or TV show, you'll hear them say so long, and that is where so long is thought to have come from, is the Irish language word slán, with the Irish immigrants in the 1700s and 1800s.
Okay, well, Vivienne, brilliant. Well, Vivienne, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your incredible story from the farm in County Cork to the fast-paced world of content creation in New York City. And we can't wait to see what's next for you. And we'll definitely be cheering you on here from Boston.
Gurmil Mahaga. Thank you so much, Martina. Slán.
Thank you for joining us at Mano at the Table, where we celebrate all it is to be a woman. Until next time, keep showing up, lifting others, and taking a seat. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Mano at the Table is produced by Craftwork Productions and is sponsored by Dot Joyce Consulting.